discuss tonight the MA of the AMFI by Lena on stereotypical gendered representations in fashion advertising. And first, Lena will give an introduction to her MA, and that will be defended next week. But today we're going to discuss it in this panel. And later on I will present the people of the panel. I myself am Gerrit Hekma. I'm teaching gender and sex studies at the University of Amsterdam. But first is the floor to Lena.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all very much for coming. I am Lena, and I organized this panel discussion as it was a result of my thesis at the Amsterdam Fashion Institute. As you all know, the fashion industry, I don't know if you can see the image as well, but the fashion industry is a quite progressive industry with a lot of new motions in regard to more inclusive, more diverse, and maybe perhaps gender neutral representations. So this is an example. This is Another Stories. For their athleisure collection and their advertising, they casted 2 transgender models, where in fact not only the models were transgender, but the whole crew was. So that means the photographer, the visagee, and the styling. So Ervin Goffman, he's a researcher, and he analyzed these representations in advertising. So what he found, while he researched and analyzed fashion photography and advertising, he found that femininity, as you can see on these images, is often portrayed as not alert, sensual, subordinate, as they're more lying on the floor, vulnerable, playful, and careless, whereas masculinity is often portrayed as alert, dominant, as they're more standing upright, with a mean expression on the face, serious, and physically active. So what is notable about these images is that men tend to always look into the camera as they're more alert, and women tend to have sort of a gaze as they're less alert. And also these representations are often very tall, very thin, very young, very white, and very photoshopped. So I want to end with a quote. This one is from Elise van der Laan. Since the 1970s, scholars have argued that gender representations in the media not only reflects, but also shapes gender roles and norms. Advertising and other representations in popular media are identified as central to the production of gender ideologies. Their stylized and idealized portrayals of men and women not only set high standards for beauty, health, and happiness, but also present rather unattainable examples of good femininity and masculinity. So, yeah, I hope I informed you enough, and I would like to give the word to Gerrit.
Unethical fashion advertising or production for me means when there's set an unrealistic ideal to sell a product. So think about Nivea selling whitening products to whiten your skin, or the Suit Supply campaign, which is very harmful for women's bodies. Yes, I should think these should change, because in a way we see so many ads per day. I read something which was 2,000 ads per day, maybe even more. And in a way, this visual language is also an education. You know, you learn from what you see. So we teach young girls and young boys, and I'm going to speak about the female representation because I can relate to it. We teach them that women should treat their bodies as objects of someone else's desire, as a project which we should work on, as an ideal we should strive for. And that ideal is very unrealistic. You know, we should be sexy and submissive, but if we are sexy and submissive, we get criticized by it. We are sluts, you know. And because of these advertisements, which shows women in compromising positions, submissive positions, very available, and in particular just a sex object, I think this can also perpetuate rape culture, because the acceptance towards sexual violence will just get bigger and bigger, because we teach boys that we are sexually available things.
In the fashion industry, I think 90% of the models are white, and it's like everybody else, like you're from Asia, from Africa, I don't get represented, but you, like she said, you see like 2,000 to 3,000 adverts a day, and if you don't really see yourself reflecting that, you get like insecure because you think, I couldn't be a model, I'm not beautiful, because I don't see myself represented in those expectations. So I think that's also a little bit from the diversity in advertising, not only for black people, but like for everybody who's like not white. I think everybody should get a little bit of the shine, like a little bit of 10 moments of fame, like.
And also ugly people.
Yeah, but what exactly? Then we get to the question, what is beautiful?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, what I find beautiful, I think most people don't find. I mean, what do you find beautiful?
Pretty.
Yeah. Okay.
You have also, let's say, the client side of the advertising. So let's say, if I have to do an advertisement for the fashion industry, I can say, well, let's change it. But you have to make also the DNA of the company, you have to relate to the boss of the... Actually, the guy who pays you has always a big voice in this kind of things.
Why guy? Why do you say guy?
Fair enough. Well, the person who pays. But yeah, if an agency or the company, the brand itself doesn't want to change, it's really hard to, what's the starting point to change, to make a change?
Once we start not using the body as an object, but looking for more personality in a fashion advertising campaign, I think that could be a very good thing. And I think that's also what we want as this new generation, more personality and more truth.
Let's go crazy about it, and then people also on the street will start talking about it. That's why this is really good what the brand wants. But there you have it. A lot of brands just don't dare it.
If you dare to make a change, it will catch up, and people will talk about it, and people will embrace it. Try to look past the gender. Try to look past that she's a woman or she's a man, and try to look more at a person as a being.
But as a person, as a being, we are also sexual beings. We are subjects and objects. So should you oppose the idea of sexuality in the advertising?
I oppose the idea to make it like so big.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's more nice. It's more like it's all about sexuality and not so much about the product they're selling.
It's all about us buying stuff, isn't it? And I think what's keeping us all on the back foot right now is this consumer culture, which is always trying to sort of assert there's some kind of ideal onto our lives and keep us buying stuff to keep us like happy, rather than actually buying things that we need and we can use. It's about like selling us stuff to fill some kind of imaginary vacuum. And I think that this whole kind of male-female dichotomy and this idea of sort of selling us this kind of very idealized view of what is masculinity and what is femininity, and turning this into a consumer product is really what the advertising is all about. And I think that, and we as consumers, so to speak, well, it's very, very difficult for us to challenge this when you're going out onto the high street and you see all these things. Okay, this is men's stuff, this is women's stuff, boys, girls, and it's all sort of broken down into this kind of dichotomy. And it's very easy for us to sit here and say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we as consumers can challenge this? But we're not really given the opportunity because the whole of our society is structured to make this what it is. Sorry.
Consumer culture, the natural and the normal.
I think for the most realistic standpoint in this is what they're doing in Sweden now, is that the younger generation is getting raised at this, and like the newer generation, or like this generation, which is getting also adult after a while, they have this certain relatively more gender equal idea about the world. So I think that's like the most realistic. For me, as I don't like to put myself as a feminist, because that for me is also too coloring, I would like to see gender neutrality in which gender is just seen as, which I am a guy, because I have a penis and girls have a vagina, so that's different. But it should not really matter. We're like, for me, we're not the same, but equality should be there.
And my impression is that we are moving ahead very slowly, and that it's very important to go down to, I would say, the basic education of boys and girls. That is more, I would say, spread. There's more diversity, more equality between boys and girls. And that also, when it comes to equality, that it's also very much, I would say, that the boys should also invest in clothing and in nice stuff instead of assaulting each other or not being masculine enough. Yeah, that kind of idea. Is there anyone, anything else you want to add to this final?
What you just mentioned, we should not put sexuality in the same line as sexism. There should be room for sex and sexuality, for me. That's one of the questions I missed.
Okay, yeah.
I think also we should focus that it's not only a women problem, but there's also men suffering from these stereotypes.
Yeah.
Sad.
I want to thank everyone for coming, and I would like to invite you all for a drink and a bite. So yeah, I also want to give goodie bags. These for you.